Welcome to our deep dive today. It's into the Mahabharata.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. We're going to be looking at excerpts from an Eon essay by Audrey Trishke.
Okay.
And just sort of see how this epic poem, kind of reflects these timeless human struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll find that these ancient stories really have quite a bit to say about our world today.
Yeah, I think the Mahabharata is one of those texts that, you can return to again and again.
Yeah.
And always find something new in it. And it really is kind of a mirror, reflecting back
Interesting.
our own complexities. We see power struggles, we see moral dilemmas, we see the consequences of social structures. It's all there, just like played out on this epic scale.
And it's really interesting too how they predicted this whole Kali Yuga thing,
right?
Which we're supposed to be living in now. I mean, it's like spot on.
It does feel very relevant to the state of the world today.
For those who might not know, the Kali Yuga is like this concept in Hinduism where there's like a decline in like spiritual and moral values.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's a time of increased conflict and suffering.
Yeah, an age of vice.
Right.
Yeah, and that really kind of permeates the entire Mahabharata. The story itself is almost a commentary on what happens when a world is kind of seemingly spiraling towards chaos. What kind of like power struggles and ethical compromises emerge.
Totally. It's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows.
No.
So let's get into like the basic conflict of this. So we have the Pandavas and the Kauravas.
Right.
And these are two sets of cousins who are vying for the throne of Hastinapura.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't exactly have the cleanest methods of getting ahead.
Well, the Mahabharata definitely doesn't shy away from showing how far people are willing to go for power. It's a stark reminder, I think, that the desire for power can really corrupt even the most well-intentioned individual. And we see, gambling, deceit, even murder.
Wow.
All before things escalate to a full-blown war.
And that's where the Mahabharata, I think, really grabs you.
Yeah.
Because it's not this, like, clear-cut good versus evil narrative.
Right.
The Pandavas, who we're kind of supposed to be rooting for, are deeply flawed.
They're complex characters.
Yes. They make mistakes. They bend the rules.
Right.
And even the gods, who support them aren't exactly squeaky clean.
Yeah, this is one of the things I find so intellectually stimulating about the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
It really pushes us to examine our own assumptions about morality. Like, take Bhishma, for example. He's this revered elder who takes a vow of celibacy out of love for his father.
Oh, wow.
But that action, while well-intentioned, ultimately leads to these devastating consequences for the entire kingdom. It makes you wonder, can good intentions ever really justify harmful actions?
Right, and then there's Krishna, who's like, a god encouraging dishonesty, but then, also giving this famous Bhagavad Gita that people interpret as like promoting nonviolence.
Right, but within the context of the story, he's persuading Arjuna to fight.
Yeah, it's like, how do you reconcile these things?
It's really interesting. The Bhagavad Gita, I think, is a great example of how interpretations can kind of evolve over time and be influenced by different contexts. Like for Gandhi, the Gita was a text about nonviolent resistance.
Right.
In the Mahabharata, it's more about understanding your dharma, your duty.
Okay.
Even if it involves violence.
So it's all about interpretation.
It is, yeah. It's a really powerful reminder that even within a single text, multiple interpretations can exist.
So the war does eventually erupt, and the Mahabharata doesn't hold back in describing the brutality and the loss of life.
It's a very graphic portrayal.
It's like, can there ever be like a just war? A victory worth achieving at such a devastating cost?
It's the central question at the heart of the epic, right?
Yeah.
The Pandavas win, but it's called a Pyrrhic victory. It comes at such a great cost that it's essentially a defeat.
Yeah.
I mean, nearly everyone they knew and loved is gone.
Yeah.
And even Yudhishthira, who was the eldest Pandava, is kind of overwhelmed with grief.
Yeah.
And questions the very meaning of a throne achieved through so much suffering.
It's powerful when he's like lamenting his victory.
It is, yeah.
Because he's considered the most righteous of the brothers.
He is, yeah.
But even he's like, was it worth it?
Right, it makes you think about the true meaning of justice.
Totally.
And the tragedy of the Mahabharata isn't limited to the battlefield.
Right.
We also see the often, difficult realities for women in this ancient society.
Let's talk about Draupadi.
Yes, let's dive into her story.
Yeah, because she's such a captivating and complex figure.
Absolutely.
And she really highlights these challenges.
Yes.
So she's won in a gambling match, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
And then she's publicly humiliated.
Yeah.
And nearly assaulted. It's really hard to read that and not just feel the vulnerability of women.
It is, yeah.
In that context.
Yeah, and what I find intriguing is that even as the Mahabharata condemns what happens to her, Draupadi is often criticized for her outspokenness.
Oh, wow.
She dares to question those in power. She demands justice. But that same strength is sometimes viewed as disruptive.
Oh, interesting.
It reveals, I think, the complexities of societal expectations placed on women.
Right.
It's a tension that unfortunately still echoes today.
Yeah.
And of course, her story takes another, kind of complicated turn.
Right.
When she's forced into polyandry.
Right.
Becoming the wife of all 5 Pandava brothers.
Yeah. What does that say about consent and agency?
It raises so many questions.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it shows how the Mahabharata forces us to confront these cultural practices that we might find deeply unsettling.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, Draupadi's story, along with the stories of other women in the epic, really give us this glimpse into, the societal norms of the time.
Right.
And, while we might be tempted to simply judge those norms, I think it's more powerful to ask how those attitudes might have evolved and taken new forms in the modern world. The essay even connects Draupadi's humiliation to, the horrific Delhi gang rape case.
Right. Wow.
Suggesting these disturbing continuities in how women are treated across centuries.
It's scary how some patterns just persist.
It is, yeah.
Okay, well, before we get too far down that road, let's move on to another fascinating aspect of the Mahabharata.
Okay.
Which is its exploration of caste and identity.
Yes, this is where things get even more intricate.
Yeah.
The caste system's really deeply intertwined with the whole Mahabharata.
Yeah.
And it doesn't shy away from showing the inequalities, the injustices that can arise from it.
And it's the system that's meant to define social order, but it can also trap individuals within this rigid hierarchy.
Absolutely.
And you see that playing out in Karna's story,
right,
where he's born to royalty, but he's abandoned because of these societal constraints. And he's raised by these loving parents of a lower caste.
Right.
He becomes this incredible warrior.
Yes.
But the stigma of his birth just follows him relentlessly.
Doesn't it? It's Karna's story really raises these fundamental questions about identity and destiny. Can we ever truly transcend our origins?
Right.
Or are we forever bound by the circumstances of our birth?
It's he's constantly battling against this invisible wall.
Right, exactly.
Even though he proves himself again and again.
And there's this tragic irony in his story, too.
Yeah.
Karna's actually the eldest Pandava brother.
Whoa.
A fact that's hidden from him.
Oh, wow.
He has a legitimate claim to the throne.
Right.
But he remains totally unaware of his true lineage.
That's crazy.
And Krishna even tries to persuade him to switch sides and join his brothers.
But he doesn't.
But Karna chooses loyalty.
Right.
To those who accepted him.
Yeah.
Even though they're ultimately on the opposing side of the war.
It's what would you do in that situation?
Right. It's such a difficult choice.
Yeah.
But it speaks, I think, to his unwavering sense of integrity. He refuses to abandon those who stood by him.
Right.
Even if it means sacrificing his potential.
Yeah.
And fighting against his own blood.
And his story serves as such a powerful critique of the caste system.
It does, yeah.
And it shows how this social prejudice can just stifle individual potential.
Absolutely.
And perpetuate these cycles of inequality.
Yeah. And it's not just Karna who suffers.
Right.
Because of this rigid nature of the caste system.
Yeah. The essay also mentions Ekalavya.
Yes.
Who's this tribal boy who is denied an education by the royal teacher.
Right.
Because of his caste.
Yeah. Solely because of his caste.
Yeah. So he becomes this really skilled archer on his own.
He does.
But then he's forced to make this horrible sacrifice.
Right. Ekalavya's story, I think, is such a stark example of how deeply embedded prejudice can be. Mm-hmm. He's literally punished for his talent and his ambition.
That's crazy.
Because he doesn't fit within the established social order.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how these systems of oppression can really crush individual aspirations.
Yeah.
And only serve to maintain existing power structures.
And the essay makes this connection between these ancient stories and modern day issues.
Yeah.
Arguing that the caste system is still very much alive.
Badly, yes.
Both in India and the diaspora. Which is kind of a reminder that even ancient texts can speak to these contemporary challenges.
That's one of the reasons I think the Mahabharata continues to be so relevant, you know.
Right.
It's not merely a historical artifact.
Yeah.
It's a reflection on these complexities of human nature.
Yeah.
The epic forces us to confront these issues. It's like social hierarchy and prejudice and discrimination.
Right.
Things we're still grappling with today.
It feels like a call to action almost.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, like a reminder that we still have work to do.
Yeah.
In creating a truly just and equitable society for everyone.
Yeah.
Regardless of background or social standing.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the war, the roles of women,
yes,
the complexities of the caste system. What do you think are some of the key takeaways?
Well, I think the Mahabharata really challenges us to move beyond these simplistic notions of good and evil.
Right.
It asks us to consider the consequences of our actions, even when our intentions are good.
Right.
And it reveals the complexities of power and duty and social responsibility.
It's like a roadmap for navigating those difficult questions.
It is, yeah.
It forces us to like grapple with the messiness of life and consider all these different perspectives, even when they're uncomfortable. I feel like we've only just, skimmed the surface here.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a vast epic.
It really is, yeah.
Multi-layered, so much to unpack.
An epic for the ages, I think. It doesn't, offer any simple solutions or moral absolutes.
Right.
But it grapples with these fundamental questions about human nature and society and, the very meaning of life.
Yeah.
And those are the questions that I think continue to resonate with us no matter how much time has passed.
The essay really emphasizes that, timeless relevance.
Right.
And it even goes as far to say that it's almost like a warning, like a cautionary tale about, potential for chaos and destruction when we lose sight of our values and let ambition run unchecked.
There's definitely a cautionary element to it, yeah. I mean, the Mahabharata shows us the dangers of unchecked power, social divisions, moral compromises.
Yeah, but it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all.
There's glimmers of hope too, right?
Yeah.
Of resilience and the potential for redemption. Even amidst all the tragedy and the moral ambiguity, you see characters like Draupadi and Karna who demonstrate this extraordinary strength and determination.
Yeah, and this belief in the possibility of renewal.
Right. Even after darkness.
Yeah.
So the Mahabharata, it doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it provides this framework for wrestling with these timeless human dilemmas.
It does.
Encourages us to question our assumptions, embrace complexity, and seek wisdom from multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
So, as we kind of conclude this deep dive into the Mahabharata, what's one thing you'd want our listeners to take away?
I think the Mahabharata ultimately leaves us with more questions than answers.
Right.
But it gives us a way to think about these enduring human problems. What can you learn from the choices that the characters face and the consequences that follow? How might these ancient stories shed light on the dilemmas that we're facing in our own time.
That's a powerful question to consider.
It is, yeah.
And it speaks to the enduring power of the Mahabharata.
Absolutely.
It's not just a story from the past. It's a living text that continues to challenge and inspire us.
And we encourage you to keep exploring it.
Yeah.
See what resonates with you.
Absolutely.
You might find some unexpected insights that help you navigate your own journey.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.